In the 19th century, the Industrial Revolution came crashing into existence, and within a few short years, thousands of manual labour jobs were replaced by machines. Then came the robots, and every factory in every industry started to replace production line staff with automated robots that do the same job better, faster, and cheaper. The future is about to be turned on its head, and you won't believe what is going to happen to virtually every job you know. That's right, the robots are coming. Some of them are already here, and they're after your job.
If the video had extended a little bit, you see a robot that actually cooks in the house, washes the plates, and while you're still at work, you can program the robot to start cooking for you, and you meet your meal hot, fresh, from the oven before you get home. So we go to you, Sam. All of this is happening already. So what do you think are the necessary skills that can actually help us and save us from these robots that are coming to take our jobs? What are the top skills that you think recruiters and companies are looking for that can save us from this scary change?
To me?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning once again. I think what we see here can be scary somehow, but I also feel that at the same time, it's an opportunity for people to innovate, people to equip themselves, look at trends. So what employers are looking for are people that can bring value, beyond the numbers, beyond just doing technical work. You are able to think beyond the limits, of traditional working style, to innovate, to adapt, and also to ensure that you are able to meet the needs, the growing needs of customers as it goes. So for employers today, it's no longer what class of degree do you have, what do you study. In fact, more and more people today, they are training, they are recruiting, looking at the cultural fits and then training people for relevant skills. So culture is important, gender is important, also the growing needs of the people and the disruption that technology is bringing into the environment is defining more and more the needs and the focus of employer in today's world.
Okay, thank you. He said something. He said, think. All these robots, can they really think?
No.
Somebody needs to think for them. Somebody's programming them. So you need to do the thinking. For you to be relevant in the future of work in Nigeria and globally, you need to think. Creativity is going to be a very, very hot talent. So you need to think and be creative. That's something that's going to stand out in the future. Okay, so we go to Fumbi. Currently, we have this trend and the novelty of incubators, co-working shared spaces. So what do you think the future of work is going to with all of that development?
Hello? Can you hear me?
No.
Hello?
Okay, so while we're waiting for you, let me just go to him here. Okay, so currently, looking at the idea of technical talents in terms of programmers, developers, I heard a rumor about a particular bank trying to now make their developers work remotely and all of that. So for you, recruiting technical talents, what exactly is, how are you getting technical talents and how are you keeping them?
All right, so specialized skills like people who are developers, the functional sector, for example, like the banking sector, where fast understanding that this peculiarity in these skills are important, and then you have to work around them. For example, we're creating flexible working time, we're creating project-based tasks and project. For example, if you have software developers who you're hired on the project base, you give them flexible time so they can work from home as long as they complete this task. The challenge is because the world has become faster global and a small village where we have people poaching our talents from across the globe. People have access to internet. I may not have the hard currency, if you know what I'm trying to say. An employer in the US can access a talent right here in Nigeria and offer them something cheaper than their counterparts pay in the US. But by the time the person converts the money, it becomes bigger than what I can offer. So companies are looking at value creation. What are we going to give to employees who come? So like I said, beyond just having them work on project-based, flexible time, we're building policies around this special skill employee. One of our areas is e-process. So e-process are the people who typically would employ software developers, and they're looking at a system where these people work on project base, get a different kind of schemes in terms of their pay and their bonus, and then we create an environment that can support the development for them.
Okay, thank you very much. So basically, it's actually a tough competition. You're competing with the global market, trying to recruit your talents from here.
And we're competing with employees who are entrepreneurs in their mindset. You know, an employee comes, works for you for 2 years because of the online platform where they can access information. He or she becomes a developer in that period and is handing you a resignation letter to start his own business.
So entrepreneurship itself is also like a competition, like a threat, not even this. So a lot of people are starting their own business.
Absolutely.
Okay, so they are leaving to, okay, thank you very much. So the future of work, part of what we're facing threats now is not just they are recruiting from abroad. People are starting their own businesses. And how can you even start your own business? You're thinking, you're getting creative, you're getting new ways of doing things. So that's where the future is going. What I asked Mr. Blessing, from statistics, what can you say about, from statistics, what are the talents really on demand from Proville? What are the skills, not skills, what are the professions that people are really after?
Hello? Okay. I think, first of all, we've discovered that there is huge gap between talents that are valuable and those that need the talents, as it were. So you have people looking at the global spread of talent. Now we also have what I would call the local global talent pool. In Nigeria, for example, you have somebody in the far north looking for a developer, okay, and there are no more developer in maybe a particular region. Meanwhile, you have in the west, maybe in Lagos, you have a pool of developers, okay, that are looking for people that need their service. All right, so you have issue of development, UI development, you have accountants providing financial models, business plans, you have legal services where people want to assess lawyers that are experienced, as it were, and there is a huge gap. Okay, so in one region you have a pool of people that can offer this service. They are not able, some of them are not able to afford an office. They are not known because nobody actually knows them. On the other side of the divide, you have people that are waking up every morning and say, wow, I need somebody that can do this job for me. You have a small business that needs the service of an accountant, for example, and the person does not know who to contact. Who are these people? The only person they know is somebody that is working in ABC company and does not have the time to do the job. So these days you have from accounting to technology to writing to graphic artists to architecture. You have the pool of people scattered around, but they are not visible. And on the other side, where you have the SMEs growing, you have a pool of people that are needing service, and they don't know how to get this service. So Proville, for example, is a platform that is bridging this gap. You are saying, okay, we have the pool of people that are offering service on this side. You have a pool of people that are needing service on the other side. Can we bridge them together? Because the global, the new trend today in urbanization is convenience. People want to be able to sit in the comfort of their home and do what they want to do. Also, on the other side of people that are offering service, they also want the choice to choose who they want to work for, when they want to work, and how they want to work. So Proville is a platform that is trying to bridge the gap between the service buyer and the service provider. And it's also creating trust, because trust is one of the commodity that we think is very scarce. So the platform creates trust, simplicity and convenience.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm going to read a short line from the Director of Education of Microsoft. Middle East and East Africa. He said you need to be ready for the future. And to be ready for the future, you need to be flexible. Flexibility is key. So he has 5 C's that you need to actually work on. Your communication, you should be able to communicate. Communicate. Also, collaboration. Sorry for the breaking transmission. Communication, creativity. You need to be very creative. We talked about that already. The robots that are coming, they can't think. They need somebody's brain to work. So if you have the brain, you can be the ones coding them. You can be the ones developing content for these robots. So don't be scared. Get creative. Get thinking. Critical thinking, computational learning. Computer skills, they are not optional. Where the world is going to, you need to be ready for all of this. And while we go to Prosper here, just joining us, this is Prosper Otemuyiwa. He's a tech freelancer. He works across the globe, across continents. He's here in Nigeria, but working all over the world. So while I've introduced him, we're coming to him. He's going to tell us the secret, how to get those overseas gigs that can be earning in dollars. We'll come back to him. So we go back to Fumbi. With the novelty of incubators, shared working spaces, what is the future of work?
My village people don't want me to be great. I'm going to be great, I promise. We run incubation and acceleration programs, and some of the key work we do is work with corporate organizations. And having engaged some of these guys, it's very clear that some of these corporate organizations do not have some of the skill set internally to stay competitive. And for that reason, they can't tap the talent they need. Some of the future of work talent that they need don't exist internally. And that's why they reach out to people like Prosper to do the work that they do. But we don't even know the answer to some of these questions also. So that's why we're investing millions of naira with Facebook to kind of figure out what the future of work will be in the next 10 to 20 years. So we have a research going on right now called The Future of Work in Africa, which we are going to be doing across the whole, across 7 countries in Africa. Trying to figure out what kind of work would be available, how would they be available, and where would they be available. We are going to be looking at it from 4 different perspectives. First one is, technology in the workplace, and what does that even mean for the education system? What does the education system need to do to prepare Generation Z for the future of work? Right? Because we can do all we want to do today, and if you don't put that into perspective, it's going to be a problem. Some of the things we began to see, having engaged executives in corporate organizations, is how do you engage people with skills like data science, right? AI, machine learning skills. Some of those skills, some of these corporate organizations don't have it internally, and that's why we need to encourage people to acquire these skills. And you don't need to go to university to acquire these skills. You can do it on your own. And there's one thing we don't talk about, and that's soft skills, right? Interpersonal skills. One of the reasons why corporate organizations don't work well with startups, why it's so difficult to engage, is that people have these hard skills, but there's still that cultural shock. There's that culture, that alignment is not there. And so some of the things we began to figure out when we engage corporate is also that they tell us all the time, it's not just about the art skills, it's also teaching people how to communicate, right? How do you deliver on time, right? How do you ensure that when you say you are going to deliver your project on Friday, it means Friday. That's going to be what the future of work is going to be, and that's what they call contingent workforce, right? Contingent workforce are people who are not on your payroll, people who are being employed on contract basis. In the US, between 2005 and 2015, contingent workforce and freelancers contributed to a large chunk of net job growth in the US. And that's what we are beginning to see, democratizing the opportunity and ensuring that people have access to these opportunities by just acquiring these skills that are necessary. And that's what we are beginning to see as we engage more corporates.
Okay, thank you. So Prosper, over to you. Okay, thank you. Prosper, having walked across countries and continents, from what you have said, apart from the key skills of I can code and all of that, what are the other core skills that the developers should actually covet and try to actually develop?
First, I'm sorry for coming late. Now, concerning that, I think it's very easy for you to learn the technical skills. I mean, your younger brother, your sister, your father, your mother can learn JavaScript. You can learn PHP, it's very easy. But I think the most difficult part of programming is the ability to communicate, right? I've worked with several developers here and abroad, and you discover that some of these developers abroad, they don't have, the core technical skills is not as core as the ones we have here. But now the ability to communicate here is a problem, right? If you are given a project, and then we have 3 months to build this project, it's very difficult for the senior engineer to communicate with the junior developer. It's also very difficult for the senior engineer to communicate to the product manager. And then at the end of the day, the product manager has a problem with the sales guy or with the CEO, and at the end of the day, the product is not delivered, right? Or even if you're trying to communicate to somebody across teams. Now, the only reason why you have large teams that work very well across like Facebook and Google and Microsoft is the ability to communicate. I mean, you're building a search engine. Do you know how many teams build a search engine, right? You have so many small teams that collaborate across each other. But then the ability for them to communicate makes them deliver an MVP in time, makes them work on the next sprint, makes them iterate faster than the typical process we have here. So, one thing I know in the ability to communicate is the ability for you to master what you call soft skills. One, empathy as a developer. I know you're a genius. I know you know this stuff. But when somebody is onboarded on your team, the ability for the person to get onboarded as fast as possible contributes to the success of your team. So if you're the genius of the team and you are away and the project cannot move on, then your team is a failure. You failed. The product fails. Because you know what? You have built a center of attraction around yourself. You are the key point of success and the key point of failure. If something happens, there is no backup. And you go for an O&B and somebody's calling you. How do we move to the next stage? Oh, something is broken. You want to bring out the laptop at O&B? How? Do you get what I'm saying? Right? But then you can take a break. You can go on vacation and then you know that everything will still move on smoothly. So the ability for you to master soft skills is what will help you grow as a developer and also help product teams deliver their products faster.
Okay, thank you, Prosper. Communication, that's coming up again. Communication. Nigerians, do we communicate? No, we just talk and talk and talk. Communication is difficult because you might be saying something, Mr. B is just passing over his head. He doesn't understand what you're saying. So communication is a skill then. Right? And that's an expo. Somebody can do something about that. Okay, so finally, Prosper, what can you as a last word for developers who want to gig abroad, and can you give us figures of the earnings and all of that so that I can start?
I don't know about the second one. Yeah, because we are in Nigeria. Maybe if I travel, I can give the figures right now. Yeah, Nigerians don't tell. Oh. So we prefer to make it a secret. And then we talk in small groups, then we can reveal it. Maybe if you join Follow Africa, I can reveal it to you. Follow Africa is a community of developers across Africa. We're in about 5 countries right now: Nigeria, Ghana, Uganda, Rwanda. We're moving to Tanzania very soon and Egypt. And then we also have a Slack channel of over 1,400 developers at the moment. Not just developers, product designers, technical writers, community managers, the whole ecosystem. You know, the spectrum of guys that you need to achieve like a functional product team. So, and then also the good thing about being a part of Follow Africa is that you get to meet people across board. Like the guys that implemented M-Pesa, you're chatting with them every day. You get to know the challenges they had. You know, you're trying to implement something similar here. You have an idea of how to go about it. You get to meet the guys that are implementing products in Rwanda also. And then you get to communicate with these guys. Then you have the job channels and all of those things. Now, for you to be able to get foreign gigs, there is no blueprint. There is no master plan. But what I can say is you need to put your work out there. So if you're a developer, for example, you can be very active in contributing to open source frameworks like Laravel or contribute to React. I'm sure maybe 50% of this audience have used React before. Or even WordPress. I mean, we have WordPress developers. We use WordPress a lot here. And there is one of my friends called Tubosun. Tubosun is a developer that implemented 99% of the payment plugins that WordPress users use here. Yeah. And whether you like it or not, I mean, of course, it doesn't work for a Nigerian company anymore because it's Tubosun. Do you get what I'm saying? Yeah, because he has done that. So he contributed to, for these plugins, he just released them for free. So you can just go to your WordPress store, install a WordPress Paystack plugin or a WordPress Flutterwave plugin or Simple Pay, and then you get started, right? Now, when you do things like this, I mean, the good thing about being a developer or the good thing about being in tech like this is you can work from your bedroom in Agege, or you can work from your bedroom in Shongotedo, and then you push to the internet and somebody sees your work. You can also be very active on social media, Twitter. I'm very active on Twitter. In short, I tweet per second daily. So if you're very active, you can get gigs like that very easily.
Time is up and we go. Thank you, panelists. And the final word is the future is now. Get thinking, start communicating now, not tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you.